thinking, and Mary Hart standing beside him. That's his little niece. And right behind her on the wall is an imaginary waterfall that Hoot had painted for Dorothy and given her for Christmas the year before. And on the inside is the old-fashioned buffet that Dorothy had, and she always kept her boys' pictures on that. And last year, Valerie and Ida and I, or I guess it was more like 3 years ago, we got to see that same buffet in the same spot. This is a picture of Slick Kimball. Guess his name is Gerald, really, but he's always known as Slick. Dorothy's husband and their youngest son, Gary, in the background. And Slick always carved the turkey. He was good at it, too. He was funny. He could tell you more jokes and keep you laughing longer than anybody. This is Dorothy and Slick's second son, Twist. And this was in 1956 at that Thanksgiving Day party. And he was singing, and we just loved to have him sing. And one of the songs that he sang was Padona, the Pride of the Plains. That was about a beautiful old horse. And I've still got the words to that. And another song they sang all the time was Smoke, smoke, smoke that cigarette till I smoke myself to death. I just got to have another cigarette. And he grew up and went to training for the service in the Aleutian Islands. He was there 4 years, and then he was mustering out, and they gave him his examination. He told him he was in perfect health, and then he was coming home to get married, and he said, I wish you'd look at this mole on the back of my neck. It kind of bothers me. So they looked at the mole, and they found out it was cancerous, and the boy suffered for 4 years and finally died of cancer at the age of 24, and it was from smoking cigarettes. This is Millard Hart. This is Margaret's husband, and that's the daddy of Marvin and Mary Hart. And Valerie's been doing some copying of Sage Creek Trails, and it tells how way back when Margaret was only 15 years old, he was going out to the Countryman ranch fishing. I wonder if it was really fish he was interested in, or that big blue-eyed girl he finally married several years later. This is just a couple of lovebirds, Gary Kimball and his wife Jean. And to think that this is the year they have just retired. He's a retired man now, and they can just start living as old retired people. 1996. The next bunch of pictures is going to be a story, and it kind of jumps back and forward between time. This picture was taken in about 1993, but Monty and Mace showed up at my house one day, and they handed me a handful of photos to look at. And Mace had Monty somewhere looking at a house to possibly rent or live in, and they had taken pictures of it. And Monty thought he was just taking a picture so they could figure out whether they'd like to live there or not. But when they showed me the pictures, I realized what Mace was doing, so we played this joke on Monty. And this happens to be the interior of the house that Mammy lived in at Crowheart. And she had moved from a little old log cabin that she'd had time raising all those little kids in. She had moved into this big, beautiful house at Crowheart, and had a great big beautiful buffet and the china closet and a big table and lovely furniture. And when she moved to Sweetwater, she got to take her furniture with her, but she had to leave this home. And you're looking out her front window of her living room, and this is half of it. It was that much longer, the other section, and it had a huge table there. So this was a dining room on one end, living room on the other end, and looking out those windows, there was another big window like that on the other side of the door. And those big glass doors, she loved to look out at them because what she could see was Crowheart Butte and the big mountain on the hill on one side of us and the other one on the other side. And the creek was flowing down through the middle of it. And the room to the right was Mammy's bedroom. And there was room just like it on the other side. That was the girls' bedroom. But her mother came to live with us the last 3 months of her life, and that one on the other side was her room. Next picture. This was the view out the front room, the two big windows I was telling you about, and the big glass door. Now, I want you to realize that Monty did not realize what he was taking pictures of. Mace had not told him this was the old place. And so, until the day he brought him down here, Monty didn't know what he'd been taking a picture of. The story gets better. Now, the pictures that you looked at just before was looking into the east of this great long room, and this is the west of this great big long room. This was the door with two more big windows back into her. It goes into a great big long glass enclosed porch. Then you could go outside from there, and this was where the dining room used to be. They had a big long table in it and chairs. And to your right is the door that went into the kitchen, and there was a bedroom to the left that was John's bedroom when we lived up there. This is the front door, and that went to the front room. These are the windows she could look out of and see Quillhart. See the big dog they had at the porch. Now, I want you to know this is 57 years after we had lived up there, and that house is still just like that. It's just that beautiful still. They hadn't had to do very many changes. Now, I'm going to show you what we did to Monty, because until this very moment, he hadn't realized that this had been our home. He thought it was just some place. About here, May said, "Mother, get your pictures and show Monty what he had done." And so I did. And this is May, about 56 years ago, 57 years ago. And see the door that's right here? That's that very same door right there. And that's the way it looked when we were living up here. And it had a screen door here that had those on it, you see, too. And Mace didn't like the height very well, but he had his cowboy boots on with rompers. And that's him standing there being brave. And his son has taken these new pictures all these years later. Mace and I thought this was so much fun. This is another shot, sort of looking east and a little bit north. It shows the door that went into the bedroom. On the left, where Grandma Rose, that was Truth and Isabel's room, but when she came up and spent her last 3 months with us, that was her bedroom. And the wood burning, that shows the partition between the living room and the dining room. And the wood burning stove was right about over here. And Mark Countryman used to have big chairs sitting right about in here, and that's where he would rock Mace for hours and sing him all the old songs that he knew and all the poems that he'd made up. This is the back of the house, and you know it's still that color. It was, I don't believe they even changed the color in 57 years. It just, it must have just been good stuff. I don't know, but this is the back porch here. And up here that you can see that did have to put in a few shingles to repair that in the roof. But these, I think, are the original shingles. And this was the porch, and there was a door over on this side, went into the kitchen, a door over on this side that would go into the big living room and dining room. Now I'll show you what I had taken. I'll show you the picture I had taken all those years before. This is Mace on the grass and with the big hollyhocks behind him, and you see that hollyhock was growing right under that window. Right here, right along here, is the base of this window right here.
recorded that, Grandma.
This was, must be 1940, because a boss went and bought his little, almost a year-old child a wagon for Christmas. And that's Mason, his first wagon up at Crowheart. And those are the bushes in Mammy's yard there, out towards the north of her house. This is May sitting in his grandmother's yard, and that tree that looks so small there to the right plays quite a bit in the very last picture of this story. And that's the only tree Mammy had in her yard right there. And this is still at Crowheart, of course. The building in the back is the barn, and we'll have some more shots of that in a few minutes, too. This is another picture of Mace in 1940, and his Aunt Dorothy and Uncle Slick bought him a walker for Christmas. And it's kind of funny because those things don't work on ground very much, and we didn't have any sidewalk, but I found out the use of it was when you went to town and they did have sidewalks. You could go shopping and not carry that big heavy kid around. And the fence is part of the log fence was around Mammy's yard. Mammy gave me one of her old sweaters and told me to make that child's sweater out of it, so I made him a sweater and a hat, a pair of mittens out of it. This is the picture of the house that we were living in when Mace was born. And I don't know how Mace could spend the whole day with Monty taking these pictures, and Monty not knowing what he's taking pictures of. But this, it's all made of log, and right back here at the back, there was a kitchen had been built on back there. And this was one-room cabin, and we had the bed back in here, and a wood-burning stove in there. And I had built my clothes closet in this corner made of apple boxes. It made a great one, and put a curtain in front of it. This was the door, this was the window, and Willow Creek floats along just behind it, a little Willow Creek. You could hear the water running at night when you were sleeping. And this is the picture I took all those years before, the same house. And you can see this window had a lovely glass with all those little sections in it, and it had a white door and a white edge, and we had, this was our gate across here was our gate into it. Well, that's just the way it looked way back in 1939 when I lived in it. Oh, this is Mace now, and he's standing in front of that door of the cabin, log cabin, and he had learned to walk, but dumb mother put him in a wagon. See, and only now would I realize how dangerous that is, because if he'd wiggle that little wagon and take off by itself, and he was just about to cry, he went off of that dangerous thing. But you can see it was me taking his picture because there's a shadow of my head. His clothing, his grandmother was always giving me things to make for him, and this was one of John's coats he'd outgrown. John was 9 years older. He was 9 years old when Mace was born, and so that cap and jacket is made from one of John's clothes. I suppose the pants was made from some of John's, too. This is Mace standing in front of that same little cabin that Monty took pictures of years later. And I went to town and bought some honest-to-goodness new material and made him some clothes of his own out of some denim. That's his pants. And Mammy liked him to be dressed in rompers, but he really liked long legs on his clothes.